Picture yourself alone in a downtown high-rise after dark. Keycards stop working at 8. The snack bar lights are dead, and every footstep echoes like it's inside your skull. You keep telling yourself, one more file export and I'm gone. That's what Jacob R. told himself too, right before the building decided to talk back. Phoenix, spring 2021. The city was already cooling from a 102-degree day when Jacob, a 29-year-old junior architect, realized he'd blown past quitting time. His firm, Candler and Finch, occupied the entire 12th floor of a 1960s glass and steel tower, gorgeous in daylight, ghostly at night. Motion sensor LEDs had clicked off everywhere except his patch of cubicles. He could see his own reflection in the curtain wall glass, half-lit, shoulders hunched, headphones on. The building hummed around him, just HVT, and the faint rattle of an elevator car settling on its brake far below. He checked his watch, 9:45 p.m. 3 solid final PDFs, he muttered, then tortillas at the taco truck. Ding. Elevator chime, clear as a bell. Except every car was supposed to be parked and keyed out by security at 8. Jacob slipped off his headphones. The hall outside his suite remained dark, but down the corridor, motion lights pinged on. One, then another, in a slow advancing line. Someone was definitely walking toward him, but all he heard was the soft hiss of the air handler. He stepped into the hall. "Hey, still working up here? You need me to sign out?" His voice bounced off sheetrock and glass. No reply. The lights stopped 3 fixtures short of him, like whoever tripped them had simply vanished. Back at his desk, a new Outlook ping. Subject line blank. Sender, jacob.r@c-f-architects.com, his own address. The body held just 2 words in lowercase. File saved. Timestamp, 9:52. He stared at the monitor, hands hovering. His palms weren't on the keys when that message went out. Before he could process it, another ping. Come see. Same sender, 9:53 p.m. This one included an attachment, a JPEG named 12th floor printer. .jpg. Jacob's stomach twisted. He clicked. The photo showed the firm's copier scanner room. Lights off. Only the copier's tiny, ready LED gleaming green. The weird part wasn't the darkness. It was the reflection in the copier lid. A silhouette, his silhouette, stood behind the machine, shoulders squared, head tilted, as if waiting for a print. Except Jacob was seated 100 feet away when the shot was taken. He jabbed the desk phone, punched 0 for lobby security. It rang and rang. Finally, a sleepy guard answered. Jacob explained, voice low and shaky. "Someone's up here spoofing my email, maybe hiding in the copy room." Guard. Can't be. Elevators locked, stairwells alarmed after 8. CCTV shows nothing moving on 12. As if on cue, the distant elevator chimed again, closer this time. Jacob pressed the phone to the receiver hole so the guard could hear it. A low mechanical whine followed. A car climbing. "Sir," the guard said, suddenly alert. "Stay where you are. I'm dispatching 2 officers up the north stairs." "No thanks," Jacob whispered. "I'll meet them halfway." He grabbed his laptop bag, bolted for the stairwell. When he pushed through the crash bar, the stair lights, normally bright fluorescents, remained dark, black as a mine shaft. Only the glow from his monitor behind him kept the landing faintly lit. He hesitated, then heard it. The copier starting. A whir, a hard clunk, paper feeding. Something was printing. That broke him. He hurtled downward, taking steps 3 at a time. 12 flights in near blindness, fingers skimming the gold handrail. The emergency motion lights in the stairwell never triggered once. At ground level, he burst into the lobby, startling 2 guards jogging toward the elevators. One shouted, "How'd you get past us?" Stair alarm never tripped. Jacob didn't answer. He just kept walking, right out the glass doors, into the warm desert air, breathing like he'd run a marathon. Next morning, facilities found the 12th floor copier silent, cover open, toner dusted across the platen. The tray held 37 blank sheets and 1 printed page. That lone page showed Jacob's cubicle from far overhead. Camera angle impossible unless a lens was mounted in concrete. Timestamp 9:54 p.m., exactly when he'd been sprinting down the stairwell. Forensics proved his workstation sent the 2 emails, but keystroke logging software recorded 0 input between 9:48 and 9:55. Elevator maintenance swore every cab was keyed off, yet security's panel log listed an unauthorized service run to floor 12 at 9:51 p.m. Source, car number 3, which was physically parked and powered down for monthly inspection. Jacob still works for Candler and Finch, but he refuses overtime unless at least 1 co-worker is present, and the firm quietly sealed the 12th floor copier room, converting it to storage. When asked, building management blames electrical anomalies and dismisses talk of hauntings. But Jacob keeps the printout locked in his desk. He says the grainy picture shows more than just his cubicle. In the upper left corner, reflected in a black computer monitor, he swears you can make out an elevator door, half open, and a tall, indistinct shape, stepping off with its head bowed just before all the pixels turn to snow. Next time you volunteer for overtime, remember, some buildings work late too, whether or not anyone's there to clock them out. It's past midnight in a 1,000,000-square-foot warehouse. The storm outside sounds like fists on a tin roof, and motion lights blink off behind you the moment you leave an aisle, like the building itself is trying to save power on your heartbeat. You keep telling yourself you're almost done, one last scan, then the long walk to the employee lot. But in the dark of row G, the building has other plans, and it still remembers the workers who never made it home. Louisville, Kentucky, April the 12th, 2019. Rosa Delgado had swapped shifts so a co-worker could attend her son's t-ball game. That meant Rosa got stuck on storm duty, the skeleton crew that keeps the conveyor belts fed when thunder shuts down the loading docks. The place was a logistics giant, cavernous, echoing, roof trusses 6 stories up. Fluorescent LEDs dangled in slow-moving rows that sensed people and flicked on in 60-foot sections. But corporate's new energy-saving firmware dimmed them to 10% if they didn't see motion for exactly 10 minutes. By 11:45 p.m., the rest of night shift had clocked out, all but Rosa. A lightning delay meant trucks couldn't back to the bays. Management begged her to finish 3 more pallets so inbound wouldn't be bottlenecked at dawn. She liked overtime pay more than she feared empty buildings, so she agreed. Rosa rolled her electric pallet jack down row G, always the creepiest aisle. The racking soared like steel cathedrals, slot numbers blinking red and green. Her handheld scanner beeped rhythmically. Pick, confirm, place. Outside, thunder rattled the roof panels, making corrugated echoes swirl overhead. At 12:07 a.m., her scanner froze. Screen inverted to cobalt blue, big white letters. Log off. That prompt only appears after you've closed your final pick ticket. She hadn't. She pressed cancel. Nothing. Hard reset. The screen came back, but the time read 001, not 008, like the device had rolled back 7 minutes. She shrugged. Warehouse Wi-Fi always bugged during storms, and kept working. Then overhead, a single light panel halfway down row G blinked off, on, off, on. Not the whole 60-foot segment, just one lonely rectangle fluttering like a dying mothball. 12:10 on the dot. Fwee, fwee, fwee. The shrill triple tone ripped through the rafters, unmistakable. That was the old plant whistle from the pre-automation days, retired long before Rosa got hired. Veteran drivers joked about it, how the rusted pneumatic pipe still hung in the ceiling, cut from air supply back in 2004. Nobody had heard it in years. Rosa unclipped her radio. Maintenance, you playing with relics? Static. Then a cackle. Girl, I'm home watching Netflix. A chill traced her shoulders despite the muggy air. She thumbed volume down, told herself it was residual air in the lines. Except there were no lines. Lights in row G died completely. Total blackout ahead. Rosa hated blind driving the pallet jack, but her timer said the aisle should relight once she crossed the photo eye at the end cap. She inched forward, tires whispering on polished concrete. The moment her wheels broke the beam, fixtures ahead of her flicked bright white, but the ones behind her stayed black. It felt like a tunnel of light, moving as she moved, always closing behind, like the darkness was following. She stopped the jack. In the silence, she heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Utah boots on steel-reinforced flooring, echoing one aisle left. Not a squeak of a cart, no idle chatter, just methodical pacing in lockstep with her heartbeat. Security, she radioed. No response, just loud analog hiss, like someone holding the talk button. Through the hiss, a low male whisper gled. Brakes over. She dropped the radio. Forget the last pallet. Rosa beelined for receiving, fluorescent halos blooming on the floor ahead of her, winking out behind. Terminal 7 rested by the exit, a black touchscreen kiosk built into chain link. As she swiped her badge, the screen woke already filled out. Name, George M. Slater. Under it, end shift 0015. Photo ID grayed out, date April 12, though the year field read 1989. Rosa's pulse spiked. Forklift lore. Every April, a few old-timers mentioned Slater. The driver crushed when row G collapsed under overweight pallets exactly 30 years earlier, April the 12th, 1989. 0015 a.m. Before she could pull her badge away, the kiosk overlaid her own data atop Slater's. It auto-selected confirm. Click. Printer inside spit a dot matrix slip. She ripped it free. The paper read 0015. Out. GM Slater in faded ribbon ink. Heat fresh. Floor lights behind her crashed dark, one after another. Pop, 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 like dominoes chasing her shadow. She sprinted, work boots slapping sparks from concrete, slipstream flipping her ponytail. Her pallet jack governed to 6 miles per hour, revved unattended somewhere back in the aisle, engine whining, then a crash of pallets toppling. Security cameras later show Rosa sprinting beneath fixtures that ignite a half-second after she passes. Frame-by-frame playback reveals faint movement in the darkness tailing her. Tall, broad-shouldered, head bent low. Always one segment behind, never lit. She slammed the crash bar door, burst onto the forklift ramp into warm, rain-slick air. Thunder boomed. Lightning backlit the open dock doors like a strobe. She didn't stop running until she reached her car at the far fence, engine already shaking her hands as she fumbled the key. Next morning, OSHA investigators arrived. A lightning surge had knocked the grid offline at exactly 0:15 a.m., but Terminal 7 remained powered, printing 4 slips. GM Slater 0015. Out. No record of Rosa's clock out. It pulled the scanner logs. Rosa's handheld showed a perfect 7-minute time gap, offline from 001 to 008, matching the phantom rollback she saw. Row G's pick-to-light system flagged a rare sensor event, labeled only Legacy Whistle at 0010. There is no code for whistle. Maintenance found the ancient pneumatic whistle housing up in the rafters, still capped, still severed from air. Yet oily moisture beaded the rusted horn, smelling faintly of compressor oil last used in the 80s. Rosa resigned that week. She told HR she'd work a graveyard anywhere else, just not in that building. Veterans still joke that every April 12th, if you stand in row G at 0015, you'll hear steel-toed steps pacing the dark until the energy saver lights catch up, always one segment behind. And Terminal 7. Management covered its screen with a steel lock plate. Occasionally, night shift swears the printer still coughs once, mid-thunderclap, spitting a blank dot matrix sheet that smells of ozone and old ink. So the next time overtime feels like free money, remember, some clocks never punch out, and some buildings still expect their dead to finish the shift. If you hear that triple whistle echo through an empty aisle, run before the lights catch up. They're not turning off. They're closing in. If you ever find yourself alone in a century-old bank after dark, ledgers closed, streets empty, pay attention to the numbers that flicker across your screen. They might not be typos. Sometimes a building remembers its debts, and it will balance the books with whoever stays past midnight. Peoria, Illinois, October 29th, 2018. Derek Yu, 32, quiet, proud to be the first CPA in his family, was determined to finish month-end close before Halloween. His firm, Fitch & Rowan, had renovated the abandoned Peoria Merchants Bank into a glossy open-plan office. High brick walls, skylight atrium, and 5 ornate brass teller cages kept for character. Managers loved the aesthetic, employees hated the drafts, and the way footsteps echoed 4 stories up to the arched ceiling. Derek picked the farthest workstation from the atrium to avoid distractions. But that night, he was the distraction. Everyone else clocked out by 9 p.m. Storm clouds pressed low. Wind howled down side alleys. Derek's only company was the janitor's cart squeaking across marble somewhere on the mezzanine. He tapped formulas into his dual monitors, spreadsheets full of trailing zeros, while motion-sensitive lights gauged his every shift in the chair. The building's energy-saving system boasted infrared precision. If human heat left an area for 10 minutes, darkness fell to reduce load. At exactly 11:11 p.m., Derek glanced at the status bar. Excel reported calculating one of 1,111 sheets. Odd. He'd opened only 12. Before he could click, every cell on the active sheet filled with 1111, 1111, 1111, cascading like fallen dominoes. Control-Z did nothing. The numbers respawned instantaneously. He muttered a curse, hit Alt F4. Both monitors froze. Fan in the tower spun up like a jet. Then screens went black. Over his shoulder, the atrium lights clicked on, one tier at a time. Ground floor sconces flared first, revealing empty teller cages. Then mezzanine fluorescents, railings glinted. Then third-story uplights. And finally, the skylight spot just below the glass roof. It looked choreographed, like someone climbing an invisible staircase straight into the night sky. Help was 2 floors down in the renovated vault. Derek stuffed his laptop into his bag and stepped into the birdcage elevator, an original 1920s cab with wrought iron lattice you could see through. Corporate kept it as a showpiece but swore it was safe. He pressed B for basement. Gears clanked. The car descended 5 feet, 10, then lurched to a dead stop between floors. Bulbs overhead dimmed to red emergency glow. An antique brass dial above the door, which should read 4321LB, spun like a roulette wheel, ticking, ticking, until the needle settled on a ghostly marking Derek had never seen. -11. He peered through the lattice. Instead of concrete shaft walls, he saw rough, hand-laid brick, dark mortar, damp and crumbling, as if the elevator had slipped sideways in time to an older core. Panic rising, he thumbed the emergency phone. A dial tone answered, but before he could speak, soft static washed in, forming a woman's voice reciting numbers in a lullaby cadence. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Her tone neither malicious nor kind, just infinitely patient, like a teacher drilling multiplication tables. Derek slammed the handset down, but the counting continued, not through the phone now, through the shaft itself, echoing upward and downward, impossible to locate. He pounded the door. Metal rattled. Numbers kept coming. 111, 111. A metronome for the damned. Without warning, the elevator dropped the last half story and banged to a stop. Doors slid open to the basement corridor, fluorescents buzzing, bright as day. No janitor, no tech. Ahead sat an ancient Burroughs adding machine, museum piece on a rolling cart. It was unplugged, yet its mechanical number wheels spun blurrily until they clacked into place. 11,111,111. The machine pinged like it had balanced a transaction. Derek's breath clouded. Basement was always cold, but not visible. Breath cold. He crossed to the server room and saw that someone had chalked 11 times 11 equals 121 across the steel door. The line below smeared out as though unfinished. The server rack lights were normal. Spreadsheets recovered fine. But Derek had questions. Next morning, he dug through digitized microfilm at the public library. April 1938 headlines blared. Peoria merchants, bank collapses, $111,111 embezzled. Auditors were due April 30th at 11 a.m. Discrepancy found night before, 11:11 p.m. 3 senior accountants leap from atrium mezzanine. Deposit ledgers listed the missing sum exactly, $111,111. 11 days later, the bank shuttered, floor by floor, never reopened. The landmark stood vacant until Derek's firm bought it on November 11th, 2011. Derek filed an internal incident report. Management blamed a legacy test loop in building automation. IT found no loop. Elevator inspectors swore no -11 marking exists, yet Derek had photographed it. The image file, corrupted, size 11 kilobytes. Monday morning, the janitor quit. He'd been buffing marble that night on the mezzanine. At 11:11 p.m. Exactly, he said. An unseen weight collapsed the brass railing 6 panels down. Same spot the 1938 accountants jumped. Derek now works fully remote. He edits every spreadsheet default format, so blank cells show dash instead of 0, just in case the ones come marching back. The birdcage elevator runs only in daylight after a fresh inspection, but employees say if you stand inside and close your eyes, you'll feel the car pause, count to 11, and when you open them, every bulb in the atrium will be on, pointing upward, as though spotlighting the ledgers of the dead. So, if you're ever pushing overtime alone, watch the clock. If it reads 11:11 and the lights start climbing like phantom footsteps overhead, remember, the building isn't glitching. It's balancing the books, and it might ask you to help finish the audit